So you can edit out like the turkey neck, the.
No, I can't edit out of that.
Oh God. Okay.
I don't have
Brand.
I don't have CGI.
Huh?
I don't have CGI. I can't do like to you what they did to like Will Smith in that one movie recently.
Oh, where that the
They've
one
made
where
him look like
he's his younger, older
yeah.
self and younger,
It's like Fresh Prince self.
Man, they haven't come out yet, has it? I don't think it has.
So
You usually start with your like what the funny like pronouncing words incorrectly and what's up and all that stuff.
So I should do that now.
No, I mean
Welcome back.
it's your podcast.
Is it? Well, it's the People's Podcast.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Who are our people?
I don't know. Well,
we haven't found an audience.
Since you're the like only regular watcher, I guess there's nobody watching. Unless you rewatch this.
Okay, I'll make your dad watch with me to watch us tonight.
Welcome back to another edition of Going the Distance Live. I'm here with a special guest, Mom. What's funny?
Huh?
What's funny?
I'm not sad right now, so I guess that's okay.
I mean, we could talk. I mean, if you wanted to get sad, we could talk about "I'll love you forever." I like you as long as I'm living, my baby will be. I mean,
alrighty.
if
you cut the sound down because I need to say something to you. That's me. That's a low blow.
It's
no. So you're just not gonna stop. You're gonna keep right on. Okay.
I'll just say it. I mean, if you want to be sad, we can talk about that.
That's not just sad. That's like cutting.
I was a cool son, wasn't I? Making you read that.
I'm not sure why you wanted me to cry. It was obviously it struck something in you that maybe, ooh, mommy really loves.
Maybe I'm a psychopath.
That and the little red engine, yeah.
Those are two very different books.
Yeah, but they were the ones that you wanted to read all the time, every night. Those were your first two picks. When you were old enough that we were letting you, unfortunately, pick for yourself. Which, now looking back, we should have stopped at age 4 letting you make any of your own decisions.
I mean, like once I got the Star Wars books, though, I stopped.
Well, that was okay. Yeah, I was just talking about making decisions.
Oh. So you want to make all my life decisions for me?
Well, maybe some of them. It depends on if I'm around to be embarrassed or have to go, I'm not responsible for him anymore.
I mean, you're not.
Yeah, but people, though, still judge you for what you produced out into the world and sent out into the world. So,
what have they done, though? What have they done?
I don't know. I don't know all of them. Just people tend to be judgmental. So,
people do, but screw them.
Up till now, we're editing out everything that we've already talked about.
No.
So, okay, what is the topic for tonight
or
today?
We're just talking. That's all podcasting is talking. I think you
so we really should have thought about having a better guest to talk to.
We have wonderful conversations all the time. It doesn't have to be. I think you think of this as like CNN or The View. Something super polished.
Well, I don't watch either one of those, but anyway.
Or MSNBC.
Yeah, it depends on who's on there.
Whatever it is. It's the podcasting.
My favorite Rachel Maddow.
Or at least my favorite podcasts aren't something that's super polished. It's something that is very natural and off the cuff. Because we have, I would say, over the last 15 years of my life probably had pretty entertaining conversations at times.
Sometimes it was to keep from crying.
Yeah, but
The
like no, I mean
stress
like
that
we,
we've
I
been
mean
through.
whether it's talking about the stuff we were talking about earlier, like diet, nutrition, exercise, health stuff,
Hmm.
political things, philosophical things, sociology things, whatever they are, like we're never short for. I mean, we both might never get to the actual point, but we
That's true. That's true. We take the
we
long
take the
road
long. I mean,
home.
I got that from you,
And I can blame
honestly.
it on my mother because that's what my father accused her of, was going around her elbow to get to her thumb. And I guess that's a Southern saying.
Yeah,
So,
but it's been passed. It's been passed down, unfortunately.
okay.
So it's all your fault.
All right.
I guess dad's.
Um,
I guess dad's parents weren't like that. Were they more direct?
Papa Pete would make a comment and draw you in to where, and he would pause so that you'd go, well, then what happened next? Or what did they say? Or you found yourself going, and then waiting for him to finish. Um, but he was a pretty good storyteller, but he didn't ramble like we do.
So where
But
dad get it
he
from?
was good about, like, telling stories about family and his family, parents and siblings and things, and what it was like growing up. But he was able to somehow stay on track more, and I don't know if it's because he had that accountant mentality with, which was his job, and his employment was working with numbers, so he was used to more precise things.
Right, then
And your
Alice's
dad's
goal was to just put people to sleep
no,
in the chair.
no. Well, my mom was a people person too. She just,
Well, you have to be as a hair
yeah. And you have to
stylist,
also
dresser,
be
whatever
willing
you want to
to
call them.
listen a lot too. You have to be a
Beautician.
good listener. She was a good listener.
What was the appropriate term for grandma's line of work?
Um,
Hairstylist, beautician,
Cosmetologist,
cosmetologist.
beautician, hairdresser, hairstylist. I guess it depends on what decade you're in.
Yeah. So she probably was
So
all of them.
she was all
So,
of them.
for like, she went through all of them multiple
Well,
times as they changed.
also, I can say, because of the young lady that does my hair, you have to be a psychiatrist, a therapist. They're good listeners. Most
Or
of
just
them.
love gossip.
Hmm.
Or just love gossip.
Well, I don't know. I haven't found that, but anyway. But I grew up in that environment with it being in our home, so.
Everybody loves good gossip.
Hmm.
Everybody loves some good gossip.
Maybe. So, I have a question for you.
Okay. I didn't know you came
What?
prepared with questions. That's not fair.
I didn't. This just kind of popped in my head. There's a lot. You have a pretty wide range of friends, as far as wide range of ages,
Yeah.
different stages of life, different socioeconomic groups. And most of them that I know of, that I have met, have known you for some time, know you pretty well. Is there something about yourself that's either something you enjoy, something that you participate in, or a viewpoint of yours, whether it's politics, the world in general, diet, exercise, that people would be surprised to know about you? That's something that maybe even your parents don't know, or maybe Brianna doesn't know, or your siblings don't know. Is there something about you that would surprise the people that you know? Or are you all able to be your authentic self no matter what group you were in?
I mean, it took me a long time to get there. I mean, growing up in the area that we grew up in, but made it a little bit harder to be your authentic self. I mean, I had friends that I could be myself around, certainly, but like, I mean, you know this. I mean, and you heard some of it growing up. You know, when I had long hair, like the comments, the things that like the comments that people made are dressed different or whatever.
I
You know,
wouldn't
whether
let
it
my
was
child wear their hair that way.
well, and yeah, and
Those
whether
were the
it was
comments I would get.
yeah,
So.
and you know, I would get made fun of for it. You know, whether it was how I dressed or the short shorts that I wore when I was running, just so my my legs don't chafe and my manhood's comfortable. I guess they people find things to poke fun at that stuff. I mean, that was probably. I mean, high school was probably the last time that I felt extremely uncomfortable around a group of people. Um, Except for probably when I'm at really big races. I have imposter syndrome. I still don't feel like I technically belong there. It's like I'm trying to prove myself that I belong there. So it's not that I'm not myself, but I feel like I at times haven't earned the right to be there yet, or am on the same level as those people. I wouldn't say I'm not being myself, but I'm probably not my full self because I'm.
You're holding something back.
Well, you feel like an imposter.
Not in the race, but
yeah, you feel like an imposter, right?
Yeah.
Like you feel like you're on the outside. You feel like you're not part of the group, right? Because I haven't quite done the things that I always wanted to do, right?
Do you think it has to do with because of how you've had to get there, trying
No,
to
it's just
work
because I
against
haven't.
the
Well,
vasculitis?
no, it's just because I haven't. I mean, when I haven't run the times that I want to run, that a lot of my peers have run. You know, haven't won the races that I would like to win or whatever, or finish as high. So I don't. I feel like at times I don't belong because I haven't checked those boxes off. It's probably all in my head. There's certainly nothing that anybody's ever said or done to me that made me feel that way. It's all probably in my head. But no, I mean, I don't think that there's at this stage of the game. I mean, I did write a book and kind of put a lot of stuff out there. I mean, as you said, I pride myself on having friends of all shapes and sizes, colors. I mean, quite frankly, if I think it's boring if everybody has the same viewpoint as you, then you're basically just talking to yourself. It doesn't challenge you at all. Um, that's one of the reasons why I like Moen's one of the best people to talk to. Because sometimes he'll just take the opposite stance just to argue with
Just
you.
to start the conversation.
Yeah, well, yeah, just to we can spitball really well or like think out loud. Ryan, on the other hand, does not entertain any of that. I try to talk to her about some of that stuff, and she's like, "Call Moen or Andy. I just don't care."
But that's okay. She's being her authentic
Well, yeah.
self by not.
Well, like I
that's
was
just not her.
I
That's
joked
not
with
what
you
she
or told
wants
Dad
to do.
about like I got in a relationship with most guys. Historically speaking, tried to find somebody like their mother. I happen to find somebody like my father. Because in a lot of ways, I'm probably more wired like you than I'm wired like Dad.
You are. Me, and my dad's personality. I see a lot of that in you, and I apologize for that because some of it's
well, you didn't have control over
out there.
You didn't have control over who you were.
No,
you could chose not to have kids. I mean, that would
have been. I would have had them had I had to go and get them from somewhere,
steal them,
adopt them, foster them. So I don't ever remember not wanting children, but I'm also smart enough to realize that that's not everybody, and everybody's life, luckily, like you said, it would be a very boring world if we all went down that same path, like the quote that I told you recently. Do not go where the path may lead, go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. And that's, it's not my quote, it's Ralph Waldo Emerson, but it's a good motto to live by, whether it's just you and your spouse. There was a young man I was talking to recently, at the restaurant that Callie works at, and he was talking about he and his I'll be honest with you, I don't remember if they were married or they're engaged, but they've bought a house and they're fixing it up and they're doing things. And he was making the comment to me that people are constantly asking, okay, you've done this. When are you going to have a kid? When are you going to have a kid? When are you going to have a kid? And it can apply to, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone that's, has an athletic goal. It can be anybody, no matter what it is in life you want. We really should put blinders on to being worried about what the rest of the world's going to think, because we all should have the right to do it in our own time and in our own way. And whether children are part of it, whether it's having your own business, whether it's working for somebody else the rest of your life and not wanting that additional responsibility, no matter what it is, where you live, if you have been given the opportunity to make those choices, and we have to remember there's millions of people that don't have even the simplistic choices in life that are taken away from them, then you should be your authentic self. And I think I'm just now starting to really buy into that and realize that at 63. Because I don't feel like there's been a lot of times that I was my authentic self around everyone.
Yeah.
So I have the dark side that, like you and I think my dad must have, because he was quite a prankster.
I mean, or there just comes a point where, well, at this stage of the game, I've surrounded myself with people that all know who I am.
Kind of like-minded. And
right. Well, not that they're necessarily like-minded, but at this stage of the game, they know me for who I am and either like me or dislike me for who I am. So if they're around me a lot, it's probably because they like that and tolerate my flaws or whatever it is. But as far as, yeah, I mean, it's been a while. I was even trying to still think about your question. I mean, the one thing that I think a lot of people probably, and some people know this, but I'm actually pretty lazy. I don't know if that sounds crazy, but I'm terribly bad at procrastinating.
I am too.
I wait till the very, very last minute, and it's because I'm lazy. I don't want to do things until I absolutely have to do them. I cannot do anything ahead of time.
I have a hard time with that too.
I
have read, though, and I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but in some of the books I've read that, and didn't realize this till recently, that for some reason procrastinators tend to be perfectionists, which means it's like if you can't quite do it to what the perfect idea is in your head, then you just wait and don't do it. And I thought that summed me up pretty well.
And I fly by the seat of my pants way too much when doing things in life, trying to reach things. But I don't think anybody would be shocked to hear that.
So you're pretty much living your authentic self.
Yeah. I think, as far as everything that I've tried to put out there, I mean, if somebody were to just look at my social media, they might not get a complete picture. But anybody that's ever interacted with me for any length of time, good or bad, has probably a pretty good picture of who I am. I don't think anybody's probably confused about that at this point in the game. Who I am, what I stand for, what I do. So, yeah, I don't think so. Why? Do you have deep? I mean, everybody in this family knows you have a mean streak.
So you're throwing it back at me.
I mean, whether it was like the practical jokes that you would play on Dad, or the last one I can remember right now
There's been a lot of Christmas gifts. That
Yeah,
were,
like Callie, like
yeah,
faking her out with a cell phone,
yeah,
but actually getting it for her,
yeah.
like putting like socks or whatever. in
Yeah,
the cell
it
phone
wasn't
box.
nearly as much fun as y'all got older because then you tended to get angry.
Well, she got really angry that day.
I don't blame her. I don't blame her. She had waited quite a while for it. But.
Or the unintended ones, like Grandma cried when you got her that wedding
Oh,
portrait.
yeah.
Or not wedding portrait, but it was from, I know, Aunt Dale's wedding.
Her and Daddy together. That was, yeah.
What was Dale's real name? What kind of name is Dale? Aunt Dale. I just now the
Lillian Dale
okay. Like Dell,
Stevenson. That was her maiden name.
like the computer Dell.
Dail.
I just like realize
Yeah.
now that's like a really, it's not a name that I've heard anybody else called outside of her, Aunt Dale.
No, you know.
It's a very southern thing. Aunt Dale.
Aunt Dale. But my mom's maiden middle name was Reese, Reese. And my grandfather kind of ran her first name and middle name together, Alice Reese.
Yeah.
Alice Reese, come here, Alice Reese. Instead of Alice Reese. So,
I did love Grandma telling that story about the three of them sitting on the back of the truck and who was going to have to jump off first.
Yeah, because they were leaving my grandfather's garage, and it was down a dirt road behind the house. And so my mother, the instigator, decided it would be a good idea to hop a ride, because back then the bumpers were huge.
Yeah, big metal bumpers
Yeah.
that a kid could
And
easily
so all
sell.
three of them lined up on the weekend. And unfortunately, as they were getting close to the house, the gentleman started speeding up. And then they kind of got in panic mode, and Mama decided that it would be best for Aunt Dale or Aunt Peggy to
test out the water to see if it was good to
jump off, because they were just they were getting pretty close to making a right turn past the house and getting out on the highway, heading to Chapel Hill. So they one by one had to make the choice to come off, and busted their heads, and then they got into a tremendous amount of trouble when my grandmother realized what they'd done. They did a lot of things to scare her, bless her heart, and she had like 5 heart attacks in her lifetime. So she died. Actually, it was about my age when she passed away, so she was still pretty young. But yeah, they tested the waters quite a bit. This was cruel. My mother, for some reason, I'm not sure what age she was, she got it in her head that she didn't think Grandma and Grandpa liked her or loved her like they should. So she sent Aunt Dale into the kitchen to tell Grandma one day, while she was in there cooking, that Alice had been run over by a car or been hit by a car. And my mom was waiting in the living room, inside the house, so that she could hear how much her mother loved her. But what she heard was my grandmother's knees hit the floor, and as she screamed out, "Oh dear Lord!"
Well, she found out what she wanted to find out.
Once again, she got in trouble again. So
she found out but she got the information she wanted.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where how that mentality was probably passed down through our lineage of. It's funny when and my friend Julia has just this summer decided to retrace one of her ancestors' footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
When I say ancestors, like her great. I don't know how many greats. Grandmother who started her family, her branch of the family, by picking up and leaving the family that she was with and walking like 3 states or 2 states over and starting a new family.
Oh, wow.
And left the old one behind for, I don't know what the reason was. I don't know if it was abuse, she wasn't happy, but you're talking about like the 1700s or 1800s or something. Wow. So I don't.
That may have happened more than we
realize
in the family.
I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing or why she did it, but Julia, I think, in trying to write a book, autobiography herself, is trying to understand a bit more about her ancestors and how she has inherited a lot of those genetic traits. And so she recently, over the summer, tried to like literally retrace her great grandmother's footsteps from the family that she left that started her branch of the family in an effort to better understand some of her own flaws or characteristics or traits or whatever, however you want to word it.
Yeah.
But or as Rihanna said, crazy white people stuff. It's, to figure something out. But I mean, I don't know that it takes something as extreme as that to actually retracing your ancestors' footsteps. But when you look at what traits you got from different sides of the family, it tends to just make sense how you ended up the way that you are. If you put any thought into it, it shouldn't be too much of a, it's part nature, part nurture. It's not one or the other. Some of it obviously is the environment that you grow up in. And some of it's the genetics that you inherit. And the traits that you inherit and how that all goes into a mixing bowl. And
how you get to where you are now.
It's how you get to where you are now. I mean, and I think the better that you can understand some of that, the more it kind of gives you the freedom to just be who you are. I mean, once you understand that it's okay and you are just a bunch of the sum of everything that you are genetically and your experiences in life, I think it can help you be a little bit more comfortable in your own skin. Or you can just be really egotistical and not care. Because that's kind of like how I arrived at it originally, was not through having this deep understanding of who I was, but kind of got to the point where it's like, well, if you don't like this, then F off, I don't care.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to waste time on that. And that was long before I even got sick and had everything else happen to me. That just reinforced it.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think it's fun sometimes to look at that stuff, and you hear stories about that, like about grandma doing stuff like that, and you look at some of your own behavior and you can see threads of that running through.
Yeah, there's times when you have said stuff and I'm going, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. Oh God, there he goes again. And especially when we're watching, your dad and I are watching your podcast sometimes, and I'm like, wow, didn't know that. Isn't it nice that he told the rest of the world before he told us? But then at the same time, I kind of can understand that. I think I just have not been my authentic self to necessarily always put it out there. Like
well, a lot of it's like the nature. I mean,
maybe it's generational and how you were
like
raised.
Most of my peers don't put all this stuff out there, right? I mean, Mullen doesn't have a podcast, right? Like, he's not throwing this stuff out there. Like, I'm doing it because it's part of my shtick. Well, no, it's part of my shtick. It's part of like what I do as a
But you must be getting
person.
Something therapeutic from it, being able to discuss things that in another environment.
It's more therapeutic, or not. It's not therapeutic. It's a lot more fun when I have somebody to talk to. Like, I started this originally to help promote the book. So it has the same name as the book.
That was ingenious.
Well, I'm super creative. I have definitely got all the artistic genes in the family. Definitely.
All right, we're going to look that one up.
I know, we have 3 paintings in there that can very, very show you.
I've got a pine cone I did in college that's pretty good.
I can't draw stick figures.
Yeah.
I'm terrible.
I can't.
Like, if you look at that still life thing that Tyler, Callie, and I all had to do
Yeah.
in high school art class.
Right.
And you look at how non-textured and flat mine looks with just some lines on the paper and paint, all one color, one line, and then you look at what my siblings did. It's a wonder I've tried to do anything artistic when I try to play music versus when Tyler tries to play music.
But that's all
I just
an artistic thread, though.
I
It just depends on where
bash
it
on it,
goes.
and he's like delicate and pretty and melodic, and I beat on a guitar like it's a drum, like hard, no finesse, just yeah, it's kind of like a drum. I don't have any
Well, I think
nuance.
looking back, when you were still living at home and there was a lot more music in the house from
You mean
and
Dad
Tyler,
doesn't-
and then Callie would be maybe playing. Of course, she was a good bit younger.
Well, you played music when
Playing
Dad
her-
went home a lot, like whether it was like I don't know why Janet Jackson's sticking out in my head.
Because I still
Yeah.
have one of her CDs.
But no, like when I think back at kids, like you had some of that stuff on at times.
Yeah, I miss the noise. Well, not the noise. I miss the sounds that were created. And even if there was 2 or 3 different things going on at one time, it's like all of a sudden you reach a point in your life, and all of a sudden it's like there's just this total silence.
That's
and you're
good and
like,
bad.
Oh wow! I don't know if I like this, because that's the way I have a tendency to get in the car and I crank the music up.
You can like.
I do if my neighbor's not home, because I don't want to disturb her, because she works during the day from home sometimes. So.
You're not gonna blast it through these walls.
Well, I don't know. As old as these windows are, I might get through.
You don't have a speaker in here that's loud enough that she could hear through her walls.
I don't know. I tend to not want to disturb
Oh
people.
my God.
So.
Well, see,
But
like
yeah, because when y'all were growing up and people would come to the door, or some of the neighbors would come over and say, "Oh my gosh, how can you stand that?" And I was like, I did not understand them saying, "How can you stand that?" Because it didn't bother me.
Yeah, and see, like at the same time, that also damaged Tyler and I because we don't know how loud we are, right? Because like Dad was the only one that would sometimes be like, "All right, that's too loud."
It was because it wasn't his style music that he wanted to listen
but
to.
like,
It
and like
wasn't
anybody,
Rascal Flatts
any kid trying to learn an instrument, whatever the instrument is,
you can't be quiet and do it.
Well, yeah, and you're going through the process of somebody not being able to play something and it's loud, so it doesn't sound good at all, and it's really loud.
Well, I know when I was taking piano when I was growing up, and obviously I didn't practice enough, or I could still play some now, but I'll never forget my dad asking my mom one time. He was like, "Why does she always wait till I cut the news on to decide that it's time for her to practice?" Because the piano was in the same room with
That's
the
because
TV.
like when he's quits, that's what causes like why you.
He's like, "Alice, can't she practice?" And then
Why I want to sit on the couch and just like mindlessly play the guitar. Sometimes when I'm watching TV, but like that aggravates the.
Well,
shit
it used
out
to
of most
annoy
people.
us when we were trying to talk to you and you wanted to
We don't stop
be
playing.
strong. Yeah, because you would get louder and louder and louder.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
instead
get yelled
of
at all the
just
time.
saying,
about
"Well, I
that
don't
still.
really want to talk about this," so can you?
Well, no, it's just like, but see, to us, it's like we hear what you're saying. It might be distracting to you, but it's not distracting to us.
Oh, I know that. I'm just saying.
So
I'm
like,
sure there was a.
no, Ryan, it's the same
definite
thing. It's like
reason.
she's trying to talk to me sometimes, and I'll have it in my hands, and she's like, "Can you stop while I talk to you?" I'm like, "Why?
Yeah.
I can talk to you and still do this. This isn't taking a lot of brain power for me to, especially at the level that I play it. It's not using, especially since I've been playing for like probably 20 years now or whatever. It's like not using a lot of brain power. I can still have a conversation with somebody. but I guess it's probably distracting to the other person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I was
Maybe.
trying to think of another question to ask you.
I know. I think that's a relevant one because, like, or not relevant. I think it's funny though because, like, Tyler and I actually were talking about this when I saw him like a week ago about like how because I was talking about that like because he and I even like when we lived together like it was not uncommon for like us to have Netflix on or whatever and he he or I or he and I have something in our hands
Mhm.
that makes noise
Yeah.
while a show's on.
Hmm.
It doesn't distract us from watching it. And especially like an unplugged electric guitar, it doesn't make a ton of noise.
Right.
So it doesn't, and sometimes for me, it's like when you only have a couple of hours or an hour and you like want to eat dinner, watch TV, and do that all at once because you don't have time to, you don't have, as most people don't have like 4 or 5 hours to like do all of that stuff. So you just kind of like condense it all into one and it like allows you to play and just kind of watch but like apparently it's really distracting to play a musical instrument while TV's on for other people.
It can be.
Yeah, so because y'all never told us that we had to get to our adult life.
Yeah.
I actually had a conversation too that you would who was I having this conversation with?
I sort of say if I was having to listen to this right now, would be getting a little bored.
Uh
So,
no,
trying to think of another
no,
question to ask you.
I had who was I having a conversation with the other day? Damn it. About that was one of my clients' parents about every you know trying to think of how to word this now. The world would be a lot better place if everybody's mom and dad just loved them a little more and gave them more hugs.
I think that's true of everybody, whether it's your parents loving you or whoever's in your life that matters to you, that you feel the need to be loved by.
I mean, because that was always like your thing. Anytime somebody acted out or was rude or like a kid was bad at school or something or whatever, you were very quick to not blame them, but be like, maybe they just don't get any love at home. That was
Never know.
no, I know. I mean, it is probably more true than it's not.
And it
not.
may, and their love may be there, but you don't know what the
Well,
situation was.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
prior
that
to them
statement
coming to
is
school.
probably more true than it is not true.
Mhm.
Like, if you were gonna fact check that with every person that's ever acted out or had a rough spot or been bad, like
If they don't have anybody there to catch them when they fall
Yeah.
or have problems, or that are aware of their problems, and sometimes maybe we all get too caught up in our own situations and own problems to see somebody else's pain and what they're going through. And it doesn't necessarily have to be pain. It could just be that they're having a bad day and stuff. So I feel like we've gotten kind of numb to other people as far as listening to them and really hearing them, and we don't want to hear someone else's discomforts or problems in life because we're so afraid it's going to suck us down too. So we shut it down and don't listen sometimes, maybe like we should. No, it doesn't necessarily have to be about children. It can, adults are probably even worse about it. I think sometimes children almost kind of instinctually can tell when someone's down. Because I know after we lost Allison, our first daughter, there were times that you and Tyler, especially if I was in the kitchen, I would just put paper on the floor and let y'all paint or color on the floor. And
so why am I not a better artist then?
because you were a free spirit, abstract. There were a few times that you would say,
Did I peak when I was like 5?
Tyler,
At art?
we need to do a painting for Mommy because she's sad right now because of Allison. And so you were just 4 and you picked up on that.
Kids are more observant than we probably give them credit
Yeah.
for, or a lot of people give them credit for.
Which was good you noticed that instead of, hey, Tyler, Mom's got her back to us. I bet she's eating M&M's.
You're hiding
I
chocolate
bet she's
from us.
eating our M&Ms.
Eating our Halloween candy.
Yeah, and the same thing with the book you mentioned at the beginning, the book "I Love You Forever." There's a lot of people that can read that and not tear up, but and
That
then there's
book
a lot of
has
people that just
popped
have
up
to
in
sob, like me, when they read it or hear it.
that book's popped up in some interesting places. I've seen it on some TV shows randomly
Oh
pop
yeah,
up,
it's universal.
and other
Hmm.
friends' houses at times. I've seen that book pop up.
Yeah, and it depends on probably the dynamics of the family. With in our family situation where we were coming off of having just lost Allison, it took on a different feeling maybe than someone who's had not had a loss recently or something that might not would have taken it quite as emotionally as I did.
Yeah, but that's
That
the beauty of really
written
art.
word.
Well, just art, any sort of
Hmm.
self expression, because that's not
Hmm.
a true story per se, right? Like, I mean, probably loosely based on
Yeah,
a
I
parent.
tried the latter thing and it didn't work.
Well, we don't have a second story, so. Um, but the beauty of art is that people, somebody can make it because of, or make it from their self expression, right? Whether it's a
Hmm.
song, whether it's a painting, whether it's, the million different forms of self expression, um, writing, however, but, that person makes it for their reason.
Hmm.
But then when you put it out into the world and other people see it, like that book, like a painting that somebody sells, or something you share online, or whatever it is, when people then buy it or read it or take it in an art gallery or whatever, they then has, I think, and I'm probably wrong about this. Some art critic probably tell me I'm wrong, but like those things then take on meaning for that person individually, and that might be the same across some people because they've all experienced some sort of loss or tragedy, and they see the pain or something in something,
Hmm.
or the joy that something brings, or whatever. I mean, not all art
Hmm.
is like comes from a place of sadness or loss, or but some of it is out of uh, joy and happiness.
Hmm.
There are happy songs.
Yeah.
uh, not not all not all art is sad, but some of it does come from a place of happiness. So, but that's the lovely thing about those things is once they are, like, everybody. I mean, my book's probably a terrible example of it, but like everybody gets a little bit something different out of it, and everybody else is getting something different out of it than what I got out of it, which was fear. And mainly because I'm terrible at writing, and uh, you're afraid that the product that you put out isn't good. Kind of that imposter syndrome that I talked about earlier. You're just afraid that it's not.
Yeah. Not going to be accepted.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's, I think, the beauty of something even as simple as that book. I mean, I don't know who wrote it. I can't remember the person's name, but uh, I don't know what their intentions were when they wrote it, right? uh, but I'm sure that book has sold millions of copies and brought millions of people a lot of different emotions. So
Yeah.
probably not the only one that's cried over it, I'm sure.
No, or that child wanted you to read it so that you would cry on purpose. So
There's that mean streak that we talked about
yeah,
from. I mean, is that really much different than grandma hiding in the other room to see if anybody really loves her? I mean, it
yeah.
comes
I
from
guess it's just you just
it's
don't know.
it
Maybe a
comes probably
genetic
from the
expert.
same. It
Yeah,
probably comes from the same.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I don't know how far back, but
Well, speaking of books, I know you've mentioned a few times about possibly writing another book
oh yeah, I
at
have a
some point.
million different things that I want to do. But yeah,
Yeah. So you have a bucket list?
Yeah, I have
'Cause
an
you don't
idea.
have to be a certain
I have
age
an
to have a
idea.
bucket list.
No. You know, I don't think you have to be any. I mean, as soon as you, I think, understand that you have a finite amount of time on this planet, I think it's okay to have a bucket list.
Yeah, and then when you get in our age group, and it's like they say there's more time back that way than there probably is forward, and all of a
Are
sudden
you procrastinating in
realize
life?
that
Is that what you're doing? You're waiting to do
the
it all
bucket
day.
is really big, and you haven't emptied a lot out of it, and you're like, "Wow, I don't have a lot of time."
You're a procrastinator by
Yeah,
nature, so you're just gonna have to
Yeah.
cram it all in here in the
and
last
just figure out how to
20 or
how to
30
do
years.
it.
So
But yeah, I've actually kind of started a bucket list.
well, there you go.
So, and I'll leave it to my children to go, well, didn't get to do that. Didn't
just
take
read it
mom
out
to
of
do
your-
that. Wow, that would have been fun. Didn't know about that. So,
What's on it then? That you're willing to
Um,
share. I think I know one.
So- what?
I bet
I
I
don't
know
know
one.
what you're doing. That.
Huh?
What are you doing?
I bet one of them's run a mile with me.
Oh, okay.
Was that on there?
Yeah.
I got one.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
So now that it's out there in the air, I have to somehow come through with that. And I would like to learn to play a
We can film
song
it.
on the guitar.
We can film it.
Huh?
We can film
Well, I had thought maybe we could work it into somehow doing a fundraiser for vasculitis in conjunction with it.
it. Well, I do host all these 1 mile
So-
races.
And I'd like to
The
learn
next
to
one
play
probably will
maybe
have,
just one
you know,
song
yeah.
on the guitar to accompany Tyler and get to play with him. And then Callie, I don't think has maybe found her passion in life yet, or what she really, will
Why
bring
don't
her
you
the
learn to
most
play
joy.
the
And
piano?
then
You can already play the piano.
not very well because I haven't touched it in so long, and with the arthritis, it's a little.
Well, the guitar is going to be way harder. I can tell you that.
I think I could do this. I just said I wanted
Well,
to
then-
play. I can just strum. I didn't say I
But
had to do anything
you know,
like
it takes a lot. To,
Dave Grohl or anybody like that. I mean,
you know, it takes a
so-
lot to. You have to put pressure
Mhm.
this way. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but
This-
I can do that without maybe using my thumbs and just strum. Tyler
Well,
can,
how do you
I
think
can
you
play
get
the background music for Tyler,
pressure?
like strum. Like just
You've-
2 or 3 keys and just play them over and over and over.
You mean
So-
2 or 3 chords? Keys?
Yeah. That's right. Chords.
A song is in a key generally, and
Okay.
there's chords within it that are in.
So you're just gonna go there and be an ass about it,
Yeah.
right?
So if the chord is, or the song is in a
Mhm.
key, say E,
Mm-hmm.
there are a certain set of chords that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I know diddly about music theory, but I do know when a song is in a certain key, there are only certain chords or notes.
This has gone
Work.
past being interesting.
So
If I want to be my authentic self, so let's find another topic.
it's
So,
not your bucket list isn't interesting. I think people would find that interesting.
I think from not having lived necessarily my authentic self, I think the majority of people that kind of either know me a little bit or a good bit, I think would be kind of shocked.
Well, then what else is on there? Play drums with Lenny Kravitz.
No, I would like to see him in concert sometime. So yeah, that would be on my bucket list.
I'm getting a bucket list item tonight.
Hmm.
Seeing Guns N' Roses, that's on my bucket list.
Yeah, that's a cool bucket list.
Yeah.
So-
Hopefully, I'm not disappointed.
Well,
I think I'm gonna be disappointed.
I passed 60, and since none of my children became famous, so that Godsmack could do a drum duet at my 60th birthday party, I missed that one. So,
We didn't become
Um,
famous or rich.
or rich.
Because if we got rich, we could have just
Because
paid
you
them.
were supposed, you were supposed to have had some.
Well, professional
Cool
distance
there,
running
but
doesn't
anyway.
pay very well.
No, it doesn't.
And I didn't get into the music world because, as I said, I beat on a guitar like.
You
a
played
draw.
pretty good. You played well. You play well enough to enjoy, and that's the
Yeah,
main
but I'm
thing.
not really good at it. But it's also a tie. I've never.
Mhm.
invested the 10,000 hours that it takes to. I mean, I might have played 10,000 hours in my life. I think maybe I don't know how many hours that would be or how long it would take you to.
I don't know. I don't do math.
Huh?
I don't do math without a calculator.
That's what I'm going to do right now. So, 10,000 hours divided by 20 years. So it'd be 500 hours a year divided by like 12 months. 40 hours a month. Yeah, I don't think I've put 40 hours a month in over the last 20 years.
I don't know. Y'all played a lot.
Yeah, but there's also like, I've gone now like
Without having time to really pick
days
it up.
without playing.
Yeah.
Days. I mean, there's probably even been, I mean, it was 3 weeks, I think, during the middle,
Mm.
4 weeks during the middle of summer where I didn't play at all. So, yeah, I don't think I've put in 10,000 hours. I was maybe on the way when I was a kid, but I don't think. I mean, yeah, you have those moments where, like, when I was hanging out at Tyler's, that we played for several hours each day that I was there, but that doesn't make up for the 3 weeks
Yeah.
you didn't play. So, because that'd be a little over an hour a day, 40 hours a month.
Okay, another question. Moving on.
Okay.
You may have already touched on this.
I thought I was supposed to be talking to you.
Huh?
Oh, never mind, I'm just kidding.
We haven't asked any questions I can answer.
I asked you what was on your
Sorry.
bucket list.
Well, we just named a couple.
Okay.
So personal, like with my children, and then the music thing would be really, I think, too much of a shock to people. Because I
Maybe.
don't tend to like music like my demographic group would probably like. So,
Over 60s, white, conservative, female.
do you think I'm conservative?
You come from a conservative background. You're not. what
The
I would-
question was, and I will repeat it. Do you think I'm
No.
conservative?
Not in a classical sense, certainly not politically, but as far as the lifestyle that you lived, it's been fairly conservative.
Yeah.
Traditional. Traditional is probably
Yeah.
the better word.
Accidentally traditional.
Yeah. So,
For your dad.
yeah. But
Worked out good for you.
that's what I'm saying. Like it, but I mean, it's not like you lived on a hippie commune, right? Like,
No, Mike would have been maybe more comfortable there than what people would have
well, yeah. Well, I was
Oh,
just
really?
saying. Yeah, I was just saying. But I mean,
from the environment I grew up in.
yeah.
So, but and also being an only child, that really kind of isolates you a little bit there.
That's true.
You don't have any siblings saying, we can go out and get in trouble, and we might survive. So I didn't have anybody and didn't have any really good friends kind of pushing the edge or anything.
Oh,
So,
we just got. I mean,
even just mischievous stuff really didn't.
we were all more mischievous on our own, unless it was stuff that I don't remember.
Hmm.
It was more independently with our friends or something.
Mhm.
I think together. Maybe now, as we're all older, we would do something mischievous together. But I don't think that. And then I could be blacking things out of my memory. Too much stuff in my little brain that it can handle. Anyway, what was your question? Since you wanted to ask me another question.
Oh, I'm trying to think if I would sit and listen to this as a podcast or if I would cut it off.
I think you're.
Because I've listened to some podcasts and watched them on TV, some that I think are very interesting.
I think you have very different ideas of what all of the plethora of what different podcasts look like and are.
Well, that may be true. I may be somewhat limited in
Yes.
what I have been exposed to because most of it is what I have seen either advertised on TV of someone that
And traditionally,
I admire, that I know is advertising that they are now doing podcasts.
Yeah, but you haven't actually listened to the podcast.
And there we're back
So-
to the question of you can find us on such and such or wherever you get your podcasts from. And I'm in that group of I don't know. Where do I get my podcast from? Because I think I asked you that recently.
And I told you can get it on your iPad. You just click the. I don't have Apple products, but you click like the iTunes thing or the Apple Store, whatever it is.
I'm just saying, prior to you telling me that, though, I kept wondering where are these people getting their podcasts from?
Or you
And
can always ask.
Admitting how dumb that sounds.
Ask. You can always ask Google. Google knows the answer to everything.
Google must be smarter than Siri, because Siri will get you lost in a minute.
Yeah, well, part of Siri's problem is that she can mess up what you're. She might not understand, especially with a lovely Southern accent or monotone voice like I have. She's gonna mess up the words.
Yeah.
But if you type into Google the words that you are trying to find,
Yeah.
you probably have a little better success.
Yeah. Okay.
You can Google symptoms, Dr. Google.
Have you enjoyed doing the podcast? Do you find enjoyment from it?
I do. I like everything else. I wish I could do more things with it, but I'm limited by who I
Technology
Yeah.
and the cost
Well,
of it?
yeah, the cost of technology and like some of the things that the people that I could get and like to talk to, I just haven't had a chance yet.
Okay, there you go. Who are some of the people
Well, like Moen, I just haven't had a chance to sit down and talk with.
Because you haven't been in Maryland.
Well, no, I have, but like at the same time too, like when we've been together, it's been
That was a very short time.
yeah, and so like
A lot going on in a short
well,
period of time.
I mean, and honestly, we probably should have just set up a microphone and
Mhm.
recorded us because we don't go do a lot. I mean, besides like go run or something, or maybe go to at the time a pizza spot or that he liked or a
Mhm.
bar or whatever. Like we would, but like really, all we're doing is hanging out and talking. So setting a
He's
camera
an
up.
interesting person to talk to.
Well, we just do a lot of bullshitting, honestly. And we talk about the same. We have the same like 5 conversations.
Yeah.
We're like the old people at the retirement home that just talk about the same 4 or 5 things continuously.
I found him very interesting to talk to because he talked to me, I felt like the same way he would have talked to you. He didn't talk to me any different because I was older. I just felt like
Well, we're also like
he's
older
a good
now,
conversationalist.
right? Like we're not 16. 16-year-old Moen probably would have talked very different to you.
They wouldn't have wanted to talk to you or spend
Yeah,
much time talking.
But like, as far as like, I mean, most of my peers at this age, whether it's him or whether it's any of my other friends, you know, they're gonna when they're here, if they come by, they're not gonna. There's not the dynamic of like you're the authority figure anymore. Like that's kind of been removed as we have become, or my friends that have kids, like they're now an authority figure themselves. So like that
Mhm.
veil of like separation that
Mhm.
keeps you as a kid kind of like from thinking or you know,
Mhm.
like oh they're an adult, like I can't talk to them like I would talk to my friends or
Yeah.
whatever. Like that's gone once you hit your late 20s and early 30s. You don't really, I mean, unless it's just somebody that you've never had a close relationship with, then most of the time you're going to communicate with.
What do you think your main goal with the podcast is?
Just having conversations with people that I enjoy, talking about things that I like. I get the opportunity all the time to talk to, I think, really interesting people. Like that's what I was telling you earlier. Like when you just like leave us sitting here in this room together, if this wasn't on, the conversation.
Well, a lot
might
of times, though, we're kind of cutting each other, like real
Well, yeah.
snappy or in a joking way.
Yeah, but like have interesting conversations all the time. You know, whether it's like,
You telling
Argue.
me why I'm wrong.
yeah, generally
You telling
speaking,
me that why my point of view is wrong.
you can't
Ratting
help
on me
that you
because
have.
of watching the news.
Yeah, well, the news is right in your brain, and
No,
I
I'm
just
kind of learning to turn it off some when I need to.
it sucks you in. And like I said last night, they all love all this stuff that's going on because it drives viewership up.
But that's what they're in business for. I mean, you can't
I know,
expect
but
them
it's
to not.
destroying the country.
I don't think that's what's destroying the country. But anyway,
Well, if they didn't talk about it all the time and make a big deal out of everything, maybe we might not be in the place that we are socially. I'm just saying.
so you're
Just a
saying
thought.
we're better off to just not know what's going on and say I don't agree with
No,
that.
it's just like when you turn on the news, do you ever remember watching the news right now and it not say breaking news with flashing things in your face? Even if that news is all at that point in time, like they're recording this podcast, all the stuff with the Ukraine stuff and Trump's going on. And breaking news, they're like Nancy Pelosi's introducing this stuff.
That's what they're in the
5 hours later,
do.
they're still flashing breaking news at you that Nancy Pelosi's
I
doing
don't-
this.
Yeah, but you're complaining about that. But then there's times when people are doing something on their phone, which is nothing but looking at pictures for hours of people that they don't even know,
Yeah,
and just scrolling
Yeah.
through and looking. So what's the? I mean,
I didn't say that wasn't
blast the
equally
news
bad.
for doing what is their job and what they're there to do, and you
There's a
can.
better way to do it.
Well, you didn't become a newscaster or a journalist, so
It doesn't mean I can't still have an opinion about it. You have opinions about
Yeah.
things that you've
I
never
know.
done. It's
I
just
know.
my
But
opinion.
I'm just saying, I appreciate the good journalists, and I'm glad that there are people out there that are still doing their job, and I'm grateful for them.
And like I said,
because
but
they
that's not the
are
majority of them.
attempting to
Majority of
make
them aren't
sure that we know what's going on in our world.
The majority of them are not good, and they all work for these companies that blast too much trivial information about you, and then they put 5 or 6 people up on TV that all talk over each other and don't discuss anything, and they do it in a 4 or 5 minute context where they all are just looking to get in a 30-second soundbite and say something, and then
I think you're judging all the programs by maybe one or two or some that you have watched, because I don't see it that way, and I
that
get
is the
something different
majority
out
of
of
the
it.
news programs and how they disseminate information.
Okay, well, because of having watched the news, I saw all the young people that I was grateful to see out bringing awareness about climate change.
Yeah,
So if you
Well,
don't
I'm not.
watch the
I'm not
news or read
saying
something, then
don't
how do
read
you
it.
know that our young people are going to be the ones to save us?
if it's savable. I'm just saying. I'm not saying don't ingest the news. I'm just saying the way that they present it.
You just don't like the way I ingest it, because
Well,
as
it's not
soon
you.
as you
It's
come in
not
the
you.
house,
It's not you.
and
it's,
if I've
it's
got
not
news
you.
on or
It's
something, then
everybody.
you start, why are you watching this? So it's kind of like, and like if I mispronounce a word, it's like, oh, well, so it's just this, get mom.
No, it's
So,
get everybody.
And I
not,
don't
it's
go
not
into
you.
your home environment and start ripping what you may be doing.
Well, it's just like you just don't know better. It's like you're a kid again. You just don't know what's good for you. I'm not saying don't ingest the news. I ingest the news. But I pick a few things a day to go read about so that I know about them and am informed, and then I close it out of my phone or my tablet or my computer and move on with my day.
I understand that, and I have it on a lot of times because 90% of my week is spent by myself.
Yeah.
So I can have people talking in the background that I do care about their opinions,
That's when you need.
and I like to hear their point of view. I may not always agree with them, but there are a lot of people that I respect their opinion, I respect their knowledge, and I respect the job that they're doing and hope that they keep doing it.
And I'm just saying, it's not.
Because I think we're
just
better
you.
off to have too much news than no news.
Well, it's not. It's the way that it is packaged and presented that is the issue.
Well, I don't know what
That I think
family you grew up
adds-
in or what planet
That
you're from.
it adds to the feeling of panic. Like when you watch, when you don't, and it's hard when you see it all the time. But like when you don't watch a cable news program, regardless of which one it is, whatever side it's on, when you don't watch that on a regular basis and then you come in somewhere and it's on, it is sensory overload. With all the things that are flashing on the screen and the breaking news thing and the jumping from this thing to the other thing and just constantly talking about the same 2 or 3 things that have happened that day. Like the way that it's just all packaged and thrown in your face like that, I think adds to the panic that most people are feeling in this country and the polarization of it. I think that's the way that it is packaged and presented. If you think about how
I think there has already
the world
been
news,
polarization, but
think about how World News Tonight was presented in the 1950s or whatever.
I grew up
What-
with Walter Cronkite.
Yeah, and so- and it's
you
very-
don't have
yeah.
to explain that to me.
Yeah, but that's the thing is you had one person that like disseminate, and I'm not saying having just 1 or 2 or 3 people is the right thing, but it's hard now to go anywhere and like what I try to do is try to find like I just want to know
Because you're
happened.
doing it the right way and
well,
everyone else
I
is
just
doing
want to
it
know
the
what
wrong
just
way.
happened so I can figure out what to think versus trying to decipher what happened between all of these different people bringing their points of view into what happened. That's frustrating. I want to know like the facts of what happened.
You just want it condensed.
No, I don't want it condensed. I don't want.
You just said you want the facts.
I want
You
the
just
facts of what
want
happened. That could be a long, lengthy thing. I don't want somebody's opinion or several people's opinion coloring an event when I read about it. Because I want to be able to form my own opinion. Or then go look at some places.
I
of some people's
can
opinion.
listen to different points of view from different people on TV and decide how I feel without agreeing with everything that they say. But there are some people that I have a good bit of respect for because of what they're trying to accomplish that I wouldn't know about had I not seen them on the news.
Okay. I'm not that once again, I think you're misconstruing what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's all bad. I'm just saying a lot of it is. And the way that it is presented and put out into the world, just another great example of it is like fast food or junk food. It's not that food is inherently bad, it's the way that it's processed, packaged, and delivered to people is what's unhealthy.
Yes, I agree
That's
with
it.
that
That is it.
statement.
Okay. Well, I think the same thing about the way the news is disseminated. Is it's
Well,
unhealthy.
maybe you should have become a journalist.
I can't write.
So
And
there
I
you go.
can't
Some
talk.
of these people can write, and some of them are very intelligent. And
And once again, it's not the specific person, it's the companies. It's all of them. It's not a person that works there. It is what they're trying to shove down people's throats that I think adds to this. Everything's a disaster. Everything is an 11. Everything is something that needs to be taken super serious. And the thing I think that's frustrating about that is the real important things get buried because everything seems like it's the most
well,
like
if you watch well enough, then you would know that there are some that come on the programs, and that's exactly what they say is because of all that has happened here, here, and here, we have missed out on this, this, and this that did happen today or did happen this week that we need
and that's
to
one
bring
person.
to the attention.
And-
No,
and
it's
that's
not
what-
just one
and
person.
it's one or two
There's
people,
other
but then they go on to the
journalists
other
and
BS that
reporters
goes
that
on
are
that
doing the same thing. That this is still going on. This hasn't been corrected, and we need to shine a light on it.
But that's
And
a
this
very,
got covered up because of the main event.
No,
The main thing that happened
I'm
that day.
telling you, of the volume of news that comes on every single day, what you are talking about, trying to find that, if you just flip on the news, trying to get that information is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. You have to have it on for several hours to find that. Right?
Not necessarily. Not all day.
And if you turn it on right now, if we turn on the news right now and watched it for 30 minutes, how much of this got covered up, nobody's talking about this, do you think would come on right now?
I heard that comment several times already this week.
Several times over an entire week.
Since Monday. Since
Okay.
Monday morning.
But how many hours of
By
news
some
did you have to
reporters
watch?
or some journalists. Because I'm not always sitting watching it. Sometimes it's just like background noise.
I'm telling you from what statistics say about these cable news programs, about what they talk about, because I've read about all of this, because it frustrates me, is the percentage of that stuff that is just regurgitated and repackaged and put back out.
Because everybody's not
I know,
necessarily watching.
and in a 30-minute
24
cycle,
hours,
in a
so
30-minute cycle,
they do have to repeat it because someone may have been heading out
At a-
the door to work or
in a
may not have been
30-minute
able
in
to
a 30-minute
watch it or
news
there.
cycle.
So they do have to repeat it.
at a 30-minute news cycle, the information you have to, you were just talking about, you might get 1 or 2 minutes off. Maybe, if you're lucky.
Okay. Well, let's move on to another topic.
I know
because
it's a relevant thing.
we're on a hamster wheel right now,
Huh?
and neither one of us is willing to get off. So
But no, but I mean, why is it why is it
what
wrong
I
of me to
choose
say?
to do should not matter to you, nor should it annoy the hell out of you.
Well, I just think it could be done better, and you could find some
Because-
other things to watch that might actually, or listen to, that might actually.
You have no idea what I read and what I listen to.
I've seen your books
other
back
than just
there.
this-
I know I have I was able to go to the bookstore and buy you a book because I roughly know the type of things that you read.
Okay, so
So you say I have no idea. It's a bit of a stretch.
because you're acting that way right now.
Okay.
Go
Okay.
to timeout.
No. Timeout never worked. That's how it turned out to be.
No, just a threat of timeout with you work. Tyler would just go to sleep. So yeah. He would fall asleep in the
I would
straight
fall
up
asleep
chair.
now if you put me in timeout.
Probably, I'm sure you would. So basically,
What
you
about
have
Callie?
no goal.
Did y'all not
with
put her in
the-
timeout?
Yes, she got time out too. She didn't like it. She would cry.
And y'all would let her out?
No, I left y'all in the chair the number of minutes according to your age, which was what I had.
So I have to sit there for
No.
32 minutes now?
No.
Can I put you in timeout for
No,
watching the
you
news?
need to, no, you can't.
63 minutes
No.
timeout.
So basically, you're living your authentic self. There's nothing that would surprise anybody about you to find out.
I don't think so.
And you don't really have a definite goal as far as what you want out of the podcast situation.
No, I just enjoy talking to people and letting people know information because as we talked about earlier, like
Well,
I can
we
talk
have
about
not
something.
really given anyone any significant information during
it doesn't
this
have to be.
period of
Yeah, I
time.
think you think of, like I said, like if you listen to more podcasts, some of them are just literally people having conversations, right?
I've heard that, but see, the ones I see on TV,
You're not watching a podcast on
People-
TV. It's not actually on cable news. There are not podcasts
they're
on TV.
showing clips from podcasts
But
and
it's
who's
a
on
clip.
there.
It's
so
a
that
clip pulled out
Yeah,
of maybe a
and
2-hour thing.
they're interviewing people that are very intelligent that I would be interested in hearing.
You're pulling out a clip of a potentially 2 or 3 hour conversation.
I know that. I'm just saying they were just showing
So
short clips, but it appears to be information that I would be interested in.
and once again, I think that there are literally podcasts on everything out there. Everything. They don't all interview somebody that's super important and works at NASA or works for the NIH or works for, you know, CERN and are throwing molecules at each other at a million miles an hour and creating many black holes. Like, or some scientist or doctor that's talking about a new diet or whatever. Like, not every one of them is like that. So, I think what
So basically,
people,
you're saying that there are podcasts out there that's just people rambling, like we've been just.
they're
rambling.
just having
And-
having conversations,
Okay.
things that are entertaining because you asked questions. Like, that's not something I would have ever probably talked about on my own. Like, when you have a natural, free-flowing conversation, like the things that I hate the most about anything that I ever consume is when I feel that it is boxed in. That's why I hate the news, because people are boxed in. They get a short segment to try to get their point across.
You are going back there, aren't you?
No.
Even though I told you we were talking
No, I'm
about
just saying.
people.
But when somebody like has this certain like outline of like, well, we're going to ask this question, and then we're going to ask this question, we're going to ask this question, and it feels stiff. I hate those where there's like one person, normally who's the person that has the podcast, comes on and it's like, well, I have these questions I'm going to ask you today. We're going to talk about them, but it's really just the host asking the guest question after question after question. The guest talks for 1 minute, 5 minutes, whatever it is to answer that question. And the interviewer's like, well, you were born in Rock Hill, South Carolina. What was your childhood like? And then you ramble on for 5 or 6 minutes about what that was like. And then they're like, so tell us about that time you broke 4 minutes. It's like, that's just like, it's stiff and it's predictable. But like when people have real conversation, it can bounce back and forth between talking about stories that grandmother told us and us arguing about whether the news is good for you or not. And I think, especially me and the random groups of people that I know, enjoy that type of thing because it's what we do when we're together. Like when we are together at the table, or when I got home last night and we all sat in this room, the conversation went, part of it was Dad's fault because he's all over the place, but like natural conversations.
And after you got a couple of jabs in at me.
I get jabs into everybody, not just you. Don't single yourself out. I jab at everybody.
You don't jab at your dad.
I do. I stood in here and called him fat and
That's
lazy
Not, yeah, that's.
last night.
The ones towards me are typically sarcastic,
Well, that's better than mean. Do you want mean?
And-
Do you want me to just be mean?
like, well, some of them kind of are, I guess, in a way.
But it's also how we
sharp.
were raised.
Huh?
It's also how we were raised.
I was.
With that
I wasn't
streak in us,
sarcastic
that
to you.
mean streak.
And sharp and nasty.
I think also too, because you say you bring this up all the time, that like you think that we single you out versus Dad. Everybody that any of us pick on, or how I get picked on, I get picked on by different people different ways. Like I don't pick, like the picking's not the same, but the picking is happening. It might not be the same way it is with you, but like, of course I'm going to pick on you a little bit differently than I pick on Dad, because like I know that if I tell Dad he's fat, it's not going to hurt his feelings,
That's true.
right? But like if I looked at
Because he
My-
will argue with you back that he's been walking a lot.
yeah, so like it's not gonna, but like in reality that's way more harsher than making fun of the way that you say toboggan. So, but like I get made fun of all the time about the way
I
that
didn't create that pronunciation or the definition of that. That was what I grew up with.
well, and I say words that the way that I say them. Rihanna makes fun of me all the time.
Well, she can do
It's
that.
tomato or tomato. I mean, it's like just wherever you're from. So you make, like when people are from different areas or the way that I say fire sometimes. It comes out fire. And that sounds nice and
Pronounce
southern.
the word FOR.
Four.
That's not how you say it usually.
Fur. Yeah, so like I say things that I get made fun of too all the time for. It's not just.
Yeah, but see, I did that with a smile and a laugh. So,
I guess I didn't get loved enough
But-
as a child.
so
That I don't smile enough all the time.
but no, I mean, I guess I was just wondering, what you plan on if the goal with the podcast is sponsorships,
Interview the
financial
president.
gain, huh?
Interview the president.
President of what?
The United States of America, the only country that exists.
Which one? Past, present, future?
Oh, definitely now. It would get 1 billion clicks. And that's not why I'd have this is for clicks. It's clearly not for clicks.
Who would I like to interview? I could probably
You can't
start
tell me that
a
wouldn't
long,
be wildly,
long list.
wildly entertaining to try to talk to that man. It would be funny to try to pin him down and have a conversation.
Well, I was trying to stay non-political, but I can think of a lot of people I'd love to not necessarily interview, but just ask a couple of questions, not because of them being a star or who how I feel about them as far as admiration or respect, but just to let them know I appreciate what they're trying to do with their work and what they're putting out there.
Just try emailing him.
You got Lenny Kravitz's email?
No, but you can send him a message on Twitter. He may or may not respond. Sometimes they do. You never know.
I don't want to.
Do you not want to?
Twitter, no. No, I think that's just like putting your heartstrings out there for someone to just bash on. So that's why I couldn't do a reality TV show or anything. Which I guess
Reality
I'm
TV
like-
shows aren't real.
So I know
They're all
but
scripted.
I have not had the desire to put myself out there because of criticism. Because I don't think I would handle it as well as you do.
I don't handle it great. Ask Rihanna. I don't handle criticism very well at all. She'll tell you I don't. I can guarantee you
So,
she'll tell you I don't. We can text her right now.
Walked in your home and started criticizing what you were watching on TV. You might not take it too well either. Is that correct?
But I know that I'm right. That's the difference. So I'm not going to care.
Okay. So,
I know my
but if you're
opinion's
right
right.
and you're that smart, it must have been because of your parents or grandparents or something.
Or just times have changed. And
Because I don't think you're a phenomenon just first on the scene. So,
I wasn't.
okay, besides the president, who else would you like to interview?
I told you Bowen. But that's just because we hadn't got the opportunity to do it.
If you could pick one person from the music industry who would, past or present, would you want to just talk to, not necessarily interview, but just have a conversation with?
The music industry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's several people that I'd probably enjoy talking to. Dave Grohl would obviously probably be fun to talk to.
I agree with that.
Corey Taylor would be entertaining. Slash would be probably towards the top of it. But he doesn't talk a lot, so that would be difficult.
You'd ask him some questions that would be yes or no answers.
Yeah, but that's not why you want to talk to somebody to hear them say yes or no. You just want to talk. I don't know. I've listened to a couple of things with Steven Tyler. He sounds like he's wildly entertaining to be around. He's certainly out there. It'd be fun to talk to. I don't know. That's all. Not all that I can think of off the top of my head, but those would probably be the top of the.
Mm-hmm. Is there anyone
Miles
else
Kennedy,
that-
maybe.
Well,
Seems like a nice down to earth guy
mm-hmm.
that through I think probably has some very similar outlooks on life through trying to decipher why he's written some lyric or song or something
Mhm.
that I might would agree with. That might would be fun. I'm sure there's a million people, not a million, but there's definitely a lot. So maybe, you know, any. I don't know. I would tend to try to any person that is super famous like that. Try to find the ones that I feel like would probably live up to the expectation of meeting that person.
Mhm.
Because I'd be afraid they might not actually be like the person that I thought that they were.
Well, I can see that.
So
Yeah, kind of burst your bubble about.
yeah, unless because if you're not on like roughly equal footing with the person, right? Then there's this power dynamic kind of at play, where you can't probably try to you're not comfortable trying to be your
Mhm.
own authentic self. Um,
What was the last book you read?
the last book I
Cover to
read,
cover.
cover to cover, the
But
name
in
of the
other words,
wind.
that you
Yeah, no,
started
yeah,
and
no, yeah.
finished.
Well, I very rarely don't finish a book. Try to think of the last book I didn't finish. Um, I've been reading two books that are very long, so it's taken me a very long time. Both of them have been over 800 pages. So at my slow reading speed, it's a book called The Name of the Wind, and the follow up. Oh Jesus, I can't. The book I'm 800 pages in. I can't even think of the name of the book.
Fiction, nonfiction.
Yes. A Wise Man's Fear. I know it had something to do with fear. Um, I'm 850 pages roughly into a 1,000-page book, and I can't even remember the name of the title. It's a if Ender's Game meets Harry Potter
Oh,
meets
okay.
King Arthur kind of series that was developed by this guy. It's called the. There's going to be a third book. I don't. It's not out yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fantasy, sci-fi-y. So and before that it was. Can't remember what I read before those two books.
Star Wars.
Probably a Star. I think it was two Star Wars books in the Thrawn trilogy. It's about the blue guy. It's all over the place. There was that Chasing Water book I read not too long ago about. It's been within the last year and a half. About Anthony Irvine, that was in 2016. It was the oldest 50-meter free winner, 50-meter free winner, freestyle swim winner. The guy with tattoos was like 40-ish almost or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Who won gold in 2000 and then again in 2016, but had like a crazy path
16 years of, yeah.
getting back to the Olympics. Like he left the sport completely and stuff. He's got an interesting story. Someone like him would be fun to talk to. So it was the Steve Ovett biography I read, or autobiography, I think it is. Even though I think it's got a ghostwriter. Yeah, there's a lot of Star Wars books mingled in there. Graphic novels. I read A Death in the Family this week, which is when Jason Todd gets killed. Batman, the second Robin. Yeah. I read that graphic novel because it was free on Amazon for Batman Day. So it's all over the place what I read. Oh, Neil deGrasse Tyson's book, Astrophysicist for the whatever, the short. It's like a little pocket book.
Mhm.
I read that. What was the last book you read then? Huh?
The one I'm almost finished within, I guess, a couple of chapters is Chelsea Handler's last book, Life Will Be the Death of Me.
She's funny.
And it's really interesting because we were originally talking about, and everybody doesn't do it at the same age or stage in their life, but starting to try and put the pieces back together as to how you turned out to be the type person you are, and whether it's your likes, your dislikes, your reactions to things, how you look at the world, and she goes into a lot of that. It's really, really interesting.
She's crazy. She's really funny
She's
too.
an interesting.
I actually find
person.
I've read bits and pieces of I think her first 2 books.
Mhm.
Um,
Tyler gave me the second one.
yeah,
And there's still one here.
and I actually find her funnier on paper even, and maybe it's just because I haven't heard some of the stories that she's telling on paper, but they come across really funny. And I've watched her show and stuff some, but I think she comes across really funny in the written word. She does a really good job of that because that's not always that's not always easy to do, because like when you're trying to tell a story or be funny or find the comedy in something, it's much easier to do it when you can read the audience's reaction to something.
This one, you almost feel like you are sitting in a room with her and she's just talking and telling you that this is what happened.
Yeah.
And
That's not
different
easy to do.
situations. No, it's not. But I've been enjoying it, getting a lot
Because
out of it.
a lot of times you walk, when you're with comedy, you walk the fine line between, like, the intent is to be funny, right? Like to make people laugh. But you walk that fine line between, like, being offensive and being too serious. And I think straddling that line, or too silly. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways that you could fall off the stage or cliff or whatever you're on in the wrong way and it not be taken as intended and be funny. But I think writing is probably the hardest way to be funny, for sure. It's much easier to just like fall into some tables and fart and be funny than it is to try to. I mean, hell, Steve-O made an entire career out of that.
Yeah.
Than it is to like write something down and that writing be funny.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be a comical situation. It can actually be a situation like in her book, to where it's revolving around something maybe tragic or sad that even happened, and seeing the comedy, stepping back from it and looking at it,
and that takes, I mean, that's what where a lot of comedy comes from, is you have to be an observationalist. Like, you have to see the humor in a situation that most people don't see. You have to make leaps and jumps and put them together where most people don't see that connection. And then you lead them to it and present it to them. And you're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. That's really funny, So it's, and it's hard. I feel like it's harder to do that in written form. But what do I know?
I agree with you. I think so too.
But I guess we've brought it full circle back to living and being your authentic self, and how hard that is, or everybody finds that at their own rate.
Or become aware, because I think you can even not even be aware that that's what you're doing.
Well, you're busy, right?
Yeah,
I mean, when you're busy raising three kids, you don't really have time to sit or working 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week. You don't have time to sit and think about being your authentic self. Like, that's one of the things Mo and I talk about all the time, is like when our peers ran off and joined the
work environment.
the working force, and then families and everything else. It's like we were spending time like sitting in the woods running or having
Mhm.
philosophical conversations and figuring out and understanding ourselves better versus like we were working, both of us were working at times, but it wasn't, we weren't working with all of the other parameters. We didn't have kids. We didn't have any other
You were
thing.
just
Like
working for a paycheck
at
to
any
survive.
point, either any of us could have just picked up and
Yeah.
go somewhere else. So there, you don't have any responsibilities. That's the word I was looking for. I knew I would find it eventually if I went far enough around. Yeah, no, without having the responsibilities of a family or a mortgage or whatever. Like we were kind of allowed to do that stuff. So I think we probably neither one of us would probably have midlife crisis is because we not only got all of that stuff out of the way early, but we also understand who we are before getting in relationships with people or through the early stages of those. Like you have a better idea and understanding. Like I'm not going to wake up when I'm 55 and be like, how did I get here?
No, that's more what I would
Yeah,
be going
like
through.
that.
I think you would be.
Yeah, but because like everything I've tried to do is very deliberate.
But we were also raised very different, I think.
I
Me
mean,
at
you raised
16 was
us.
totally different than you at
Well,
16 or Tyler or
well,
Callie at 16.
I had different parents than you.
I know that, but I'm saying there's some families, though, that the the thread that connects them all is like you said, it's either can be the conservative traditional thread, it can be the, you know,
Hands off,
free
free spirit, let them
spirited,
do whatever.
don't, yeah. And I was raised more in the traditional,
Yeah.
that was just the way things were kind of environment, and I don't ever remember feeling the need to buck against it or anything. So I guess it wasn't until I got older and all of a sudden I'm like, people my age may say or do things. I'm like, don't feel that way
Yeah.
like you do. And I know I'm supposed to because I'm the 63-year-old white woman, but I don't feel I fit into my demographics that well.
Just give them the finger and tell them to F off.
But so I think it's just everybody doesn't necessarily reach that point in their life at the same
Some people
same
never
age,
get there.
and some people never do. Some people don't feel the need
Yeah.
to, or never really think about it and stuff. But then when you get there, and all of a sudden you're like, "Whoa, how did my children turn out like that? What am I going to do? Raise these people?" So, or wow, that decade went by fast.
Yeah.
Or wow, that decade didn't go at all like I had, thought that it would. Yeah, which your life hasn't either gone like you would.
Most,
imagine,
I mean,
so.
very few people's do. I think that's very few people's lives or situations turn out exactly like they thought.
I think there's some people that, because I'm realizing now that I'm fighting to be organized, but I'm realizing that I never basically was an organized person to begin with.
Oh no, I'm always fighting.
And so
I'm always trying to be more
this
organized.
tug, but realizing now I'm at the stage where I've got to be more organized just for survival, whether it's by nature or not. I've got to find some organization in my life.
There's this chapter in my book called Going the Distance. It's available on Amazon.com about routines, and routines help with that.
Yeah.
Help you be organized, because if you have things that you have to do at certain times, then that forces you to fit those other things in.
It also helps to have a friend maybe that you see is doing things maybe in a different, or maybe in your own head, better way than what you have done them, and so you can learn from that. Or even, just reading a lot.
Yeah, there's that.
And stuff. But yeah, the decades swing by pretty fast. So I'm glad you're living your authentic self, or feel like that you are. And I will let you know when I reach that point
Okay.
in my life.
And then we'll come back on here
So-
and talk about it, right?
And then I will, just surprise everybody one day with my finalized bucket list.
Your
of
black hair and your
things,
punk rock
or-
t-shirt.
Hmm,
Your black hair and your punk rock t-shirt on.
maybe not. I don't. Maybe not quite that severe, but
You're getting the mosh pit of that
um,
Slipknot show. Is that why you really want to get your knees fixed? So you can go
To
get the
what?
mosh pit of the Slipknot show?
So- no. Everybody would be taller than me. I would be trampled.
God
Sorry.
forbid you good and strong.
So
Get you on some testosterone and
I think I have enough testosterone because I can get really mad really quick
Punch some
at
little punk
times.
kids.
So.
all right.
But so you're going to edit this down to like about 5 or 10 minutes, I'm assuming, because the middle part seemed to have like,
No. Putting the whole thing up there.
Please don't.
So
Please don't.
we'll end it here, I guess, since we come
It's coming from
For-
inside the house.
for to bring this all back
It was
together.
very nice
Thank
meeting you.
Yeah,
Very
it's nice to
meeting
finally
you.
meet your
Thank you for
authentic self
allowing me
as well.
to semi-interview you.
Next week, we'll probably be back with the live version. So unless I can find somebody else to interview before then. So thank
I'll
you guys for
work on
tuning in.
my skills.
Big shout out to Mom for bringing me into this world. So